if I speak at this audio screen? Okay. Panel. As the world continues to evolve, so too our definition of sports. You see, sports isn't just the type of sports that we play in our everyday lives. It's the drive that makes us fight with honor and spirit. This also means that the esports should also be accepted as a legitimate sport and should not be neglected. Before that, a very good morning to everyone in this room. Okay, so setup. What does our world look like? We say that the Olympic Games is more than just a showcase of physical prowess, okay? They are a celebration of human achievement, resilience, and the boundless potential of the human spirit, which we can take to an international level. You see, the issue only arises when esports is not seen as a legitimate sport just because it's a game. However, we tell you it's much more than that. What do we mean by this? We mean by recognizing the incredible skill, the dedication, and strategy that esports actually possesses, and we take it to the international level in the Olympic Games. You see, we mean acknowledging the millions of fans who already follow these esports tournaments, creating a global community of supporters and bring it to the international level. See, we don't only mean just the glory, we also mean the recognition that esports bring itself. The Olympic Games, such as track, field, and swimming, can in fact strive alongside a different category. You see, it only promotes the idea of Olympic Game that it is diverse. Just because it's a different category and it's not physical prowess, this does not mean that it is valued any less. Why is this? Because we think the definition of sports now is too narrow.
POI.
The world is changing, and sports must evolve with it too. Esports has emerged as a cultural phenomenon and captivating the hearts and minds of people who also loves esports. You see, we demonstrate our commitment to inclusivity, diversity, and the recognition of emerging forms of sport. Yes, accepted.
Why can't competitions for esports exist in separate tournaments and does not need to infringe upon physical competitions?
Okay, you see, esports itself is already being so successful. You see, the only idea why we want it into the Olympic Games because we want to promote its diversity. We can already see esport is being so successful, so why not in the Olympic Games? That is my question here. Because on our side, the impact is very clear. By accepting esports as a legitimate Olympic sport, we send a powerful message to the next generation of athletes that just because a sport isn't physical does not mean it should be valued any less. We tell them that their passions and their talents are valued, regardless of whether they participate in physical or digital sports. We inspire them to pursue their dreams and to push the boundaries of what is possible, to redefine the concept of sportsmanship. Because if it's succeeding already, we ask you, why not in the Olympic Games? Because we tell you, this motion is more than just about esports. It's about embracing the innovation and embracing the change and embracing the future that we want. It's about recognizing that these sports are not bound by just physical prowess, but also by their dedication of how they play it. Okay, before that, what are the burdens that our side is going to prove today? First of all, we'll prove to you that in the world which we live in will in fact spread recognition. Secondly, we will also prove to you that the side government's stance Olympic sports can also be with the esports. Okay, but here, opposition side needs to prove how exactly two of these parties cannot coexist. Because note that our side will not replace any form of sports in the Olympic Games. Side opposition should not argue over the fact that it will destroy the Olympic Games when it can coexist in different sports and categories. I will prove to you that in my argument. So we tell you that this debate is about feasibility, not practicability. Okay, moving on to my arguments. My argument is that esports integration in the Olympic Games will have its recognition and prestige. Why is this? So what's the problem here? We see in the realm of sports, the recognition and prestige as the golden trophies of the achievement, a problem arises from the absence of esport here in the halls of the Olympic Games. Locked behind its gate, yearning for its acceptance because it's not chosen as an actual sport. However, why does this argument make the status quo better? Analysis number one, the prestige these players deserve. See, the prestige in the Olympic Games from a long history of amazing sports moments and the values of Olympic represents. We say we can achieve that on our side. Because the Games are a symbol of human greatness, where athletes show their best skills and they never give up. See, being part of the Olympic Games is just like being a superhero. You can showcase your skills on an international level. So the prestige in the Olympic Games come from their long traditions and the respect that they have earned for so many years in the esports itself. They are a symbol of the highest level of sports and show the amazing things these people can achieve. We think that it can also be in the Olympic Games. So, analysis number two, recognition. See, recognition in the Olympic Games is like getting a big thumbs up for your hard work and talents. You see, it means that people notice and appreciate what you do. You see, when you compete in the Olympic Games, you earn respect and admiration from others who also love sports. You see, just because Olympic Game has a fan base of it being over physical prowess, we say that there can be also fans who can appreciate esports when we do include it. Okay, so when we're talking about integrating esports into the Olympic Games, the quest for prestige and recognition becomes even more important. We want to give digital players the spotlight also. Take for example, the League of Legends World Championship. The League of Legends World Championship is one of the most prestigious esports events in the world right now, with millions of viewers tuning in from around the world, you see. The tournament showcases skill, strategy, how you aim, how you work with teamwork. We say that is the definition of sports, not just because it's physical. So they captivate audiences, they captivate a generate excitement comparable to traditional sports also. And you can also see South Korea's dominance right now. South Korea has emerged as a powerhouse in esports with its players and teams dominating various games, including StarCraft, Valorant, and Overwatch. You see, the country's support and infrastructure of esports has contributed to its success and demonstrating the impact and potential of esports on an international scale. What is the impact here? We say that it will promote diversity and inclusivity. You see, esports already has a global appeal, and it attracts players from diverse backgrounds, from diverse demographics, from diverse cultures and regions. You see, integrating esports into the Olympic Games will promote diversity and inclusivity by providing a platform, a different platform, into the Olympic Games from all walks of life to showcase their skills. This only enhances the representation and cultural exchange within the Olympic Games. Now, see, side opposition might argue that esports is already thriving on its own, so why bother? We say this is exactly why it proves integrity and diversity. You see, esports itself already gathers millions, if not billions, of fan bases. Imagine taken to the next level. So, let's take them at their best. They might say that esports lack the historical and cultural significance of traditional Olympic sports because it's not the same and it doesn't align. However, we say that the Olympics have always adapted to societal demands. They have already attracted interest of the society, including esports would only embrace the digital era and attract a younger generations of athletes and viewers. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't live in the past anymore. It's time to embrace the future. So what have we proven in my speech? Number one, we have proven our burdens on why it can promote diversity, and we have given clear examples of how the harms on opposition side can be mitigated. So I tell you right now, a corrupt world is where you neglect a child for being less smarter than the other. It's where you throw away your knife just because it's less sharper than the other. And in this case, it's about when you neglect another sport just because it does not showcase physical prowess. With that, I end my speech.
Today I will be giving a technical call out, then I'll go to my rebuttals, then I'll move on to my burden, then my preamps, and finally my argument. Okay, so I'll start with my technical call out, which is, I don't understand their case since they didn't mention what games, as there's millions and millions of games. I'm forced to assume that these games are mainstream games. Now I'll do my rebuttal. Your Prime Minister said that Olympic is a traditional sports game, so it needs to adapt to the modern world. So our rebut to that is Olympic mostly focus on physical sports, so we should continue to focus on physical sports instead of online sports. Next, I'll move on to my burden. We are going to prove why we shouldn't accept esports as a legitimate sport, as it won't give any benefits at all.
Joy, please.
Later. Next, I'll move on to my can I get my paper? Next, I'll move on to my PM. So my first PM is that if government says that we can give people more opportunities and they can make out a living for esports, as a lot of people like online gaming. So our preamp to that is that the moment the youth see their idol gamer win a medal in the Olympics, they are going to play games every day, even though they have or don't have skills in gaming, with the excuse that they can make it into the big competitions, wasting their lives playing useless games. Which means that they think that they can also do the same thing as their leader. They think that they should only focus on. They think that they should only focus on this game because they think they can become their idol, even though they don't have the skills to play in a professional sports. Next, my preamp. They can be played from anywhere in the world, reducing barriers to entry. So my preamp to that is, if everyone can just join from anywhere, how would you enforce the rules or stop them from using cheating programs to win? Next, I'll move on to my arguments later. So, game longevity. So the reason, games are only popular for a while and there will be new games again. It is true because there is technical advancement that happens every now and then. So they will only need to restart over and over again, and they will need to restart their whole career over again for this one new game. Nextly, impact. These so-called athletes will need to change their games every few years, which means these gamers also train for years for this one game, yet they will need to train for a new game for the next Olympics. So this esport is very unsustainable to the society, as these gamers are forced to change their games every few years and they will need to restart all over again.
PY, please.
Later, people sacrifice so much time on this game so that they can go for the Olympics. And one more impact is that these games won't last very long, and the impact on their life. They sacrifice going to school, being parents, and their health. Basically, they're sacrificing stuff in life for this one career that they might not get. Finally, in conclusion, accepting esports as a legitimate Olympic sport will bring more harm than good. Thank you.
Thank you to the Leader of Opposition. I will now call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to begin the speech.
Maybe you can say this.
Now, side opposition advocates for a world where these players are not given any chance to compete in the Olympics, where we most likely would settle for the less, and it would be the players in the whole society who would suffer the consequences. Now, in their main burden, they shouldn't even talk about influence, okay? You haven't even proved how your exact burden, which is why it could not even coexist. Now, the problem of this debate is that should esports really be acknowledged as a legitimate Olympic sport? Now, this is very important to note since we must consider the impact of technology on our true definition of sports and concede the impacts and the cultural significance of esports and the potential for inclusivity and diversity that it could bring. Now, before that, good morning to everyone. Let's be clear of something on today's debate. Side opposition clearly lives in a way where you continue to neglect the fact that esports is also a legitimate sport, and clearly they've only thought about how esports lack the true effort of traditional sports and that their inclusion could undermine the whole Olympic Games. Now, firstly, let's remind ourselves what has already been said by our first speaker here. Now, he has already emphasized that esports integration in the Olympic Games will have more recognition and prestige. Now, this is more important to recognize the true evolving decline of sports and keep the Olympic Games aligned with the contemporary interests and technologies for the future. Now, however, the opposition only argued that the esports completely lacks the physical rigor of traditional sports and that their inclusion would just undermine the whole Olympic Games. Now, so clearly they have yet to show you how they could win this debate. Now, I'm going to do three things in my speech. First, rebut all the things that's mentioned by them. Second, put forward one whole argument for our side. And third, compare their narratives as to why you should side with our bench. Now, moving on to our rebuts. The opposition argues that prioritizing diversity, more inclusivity, just for the longevity, the sustainability in esports completely compromises the meritocracy and creates a complete fair advantage for certain players. Now, you may have claimed that prioritizing diversity and inclusivity does compromises meritocracy, but
POI.
decline, but it completely lacks the sufficient evidence and examples. It is still possible to uphold meritocracy while still actively seeking out and supporting players from underrepresented groups. Now, the inclusion of these players does not automatically imply a compromise in merit-based selection progress. Now, they have already said that how this could help them in the future, okay? Just not in the esports, in the Olympic Games. Now, you have got to take into account the true long-term growth and sustainability. Even if you say it may lead to some oversaturation, since Olympic Games already have enough stuff, enough resources, enough games, then esports is completely different. But it's completely false, because by excluding certain groups of players, there are esports players for a reason here, okay? These can limit the true esports potential and its true potential for innovation, expansion, and attracting a more wider audience. Not to mention the diversity too. Now, evolution of meritocracy. The concept of meritocracy here is completely not fixed, okay? It changes with society. Similar to how Olympics has already evolved to include new sports that align with contemporary interests and the advancements, the definition of merit should also adapt. Esports should always embody a modern form of competition where mental agility, strategic thinking, and reflexes are crucial. So I don't get how the point even makes sense in the first place. Now, second, they argue that the inclusion of esports could undermine the Olympic Games of excellence, friendship, and respect, since these are completely different, okay? Now, we think this claim is completely flawed in the first place because esports promote these values through international competition, framework, teamwork, fair play. Esports communities are already diverse, inclusive, fostering global friendships and mutual respect among players. Even though they say, oh, esports, they could change the games every 5 years. Oh, these players can just keep up. They are esports players for a reason, okay? Even though there is even 1 week, they could practice it non-stop, hours every hour, 24/7. And with some friends that may have played the game before, they could easily adapt, easily excel in the game, in the Olympics, striving for a better future, better life. Now, for instance, international esports tournaments already bring together players from different countries, different backgrounds, already promote cultural exchange and understanding. What they have failed to think, what they have failed to do, is that they just think that this could cause more unfair advantage and unfairness towards the Olympics, which is completely not the case here. Now, moving on to our arguments. Esports should always promote diversity and inclusivity among players. I will give you 2 levels of analysis here. First, the importance of it. Now, what do we get here? More representation. Diversity and inclusivity in the gaming industry ensure that players from different backgrounds, cultures, and identities are always included. These help challenge stereotypes, break down barriers, and promote more acceptance and understanding among the gaming community. Now, second, equal opportunities. Prioritizing diversity and inclusivity provides more fair chances for aspiring gamers from underrepresented groups. It inspires individuals who may have felt excluded or discouraged before to actually actively participate and excel in the esports arena. Now, what's the outcome better on our side? It's because esports already have a vast, a more diverse global following. The inclusion in the Olympics would way enhance the game's whole reach and inclusivity for the future. In contrast, side opposition already failed to recognize the true potential of esports to actually unite people from various backgrounds and to foster a sense of global community. Now, what's the impact here? First, enhanced inclusivity. Esports already have a broad appeal across different parts of the whole society. So by including esports, the Olympics can become way more inclusive, more diverse, attracting more participants, attracting more wider audience, with the traditional sports along with the esports people. Now, esports have a significant following among many young people and for those who may not have access to sports facilities, which is what side opposition has already failed to prove. Now, second, increased global engagement. Esports are already popular worldwide with millions, if not billions of players across different continents. This would just increase way more viewer and participation, bringing the Olympic spirit to more new, diverse audiences. Now, major sporting such as League of Legends World Championships, Overwatch, Valorant, all of those could literally attract viewers from around the whole globe, showcasing the true potential of widespread engagement. Now, let's take side opposition as best, assuming that esports lack physical rigor and undermine the true Olympic value here, okay? Since that's what the Olympics is all about, right? Now, why then should we actually ignore the true potential to promote inclusivity, global engagement, and more economic growth for the future? Since we are literally moving to the future right now, okay? This is not the old times. This is 2024. We have to change and not stay in the past. Now, in conclusion, Recognizing esports as a legitimate Olympic sport is not only about embracing technology, but also celebrating the passion, dedication, passion of these esports players. So Carlos, if we want to live in a world where you're not giving these esports players the true definition, the true chance they are given just to master their expertise, their techniques, are not given any chance to join in the Olympics, then feel free, side with opposition. With that, I'm going to thank you.
I will now call upon the leader of opposition to begin the speech.
Hi, am I audible at this volume?
Yep.
Okay. I will start in 3, 2, 1. Hello, you do not suddenly add a category for bicycle racing in F1 just simply because you want diversity. You need to fit the identity, and you do not put it in just because you want diversity, just because you want all sorts of like inclusivity or something like that. This is the burden government has to prove. To add something that totally does not relate to what it was established in the first place, and for the whole reason of diversity, because I tell you, it will fall on your side insofar as you cannot prove to me why the F1 should include a bicycle race in their circuit. Now, my speech today will consist of 2 parts. Number 1, on 4 responses on diversity, opportunity, on more audience base, and number 4 on longevity. And after that, 1 argument on the over glorification of esports, which I tell you brings inherent negatives in status quo. Now, first response on how they want diversity. Well, I tell you, there are world championships. It is unimportant for the Olympic Games, which was brought in for physical sports to include esports. Because in status quo, the International Olympic Committee actually wants esports to be part of the Olympics, but they want a totally separate competition. Why is this the reason? Because they want to have it as a separate competition because they each have its own identity. They do not have a shared identity. The only thing you can prove on your side is that, oh, they are both competitive. Yeah, you cannot just simply add everything competitive into the same category. Now, next, on how there is no opportunity for esports players. There are world championships. You cannot tell me that the only opportunity that exists for esports players is the Olympics, because you cannot deny that the world championships, which is currently happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, is illegitimate. You cannot tell me that only the Olympics is an opportunity for these players.
Sure.
I tell you that there are specific game world championships. There are huge world championships that are also happening in Riyadh right now. They are not underrepresented, and we tell you it is not the role of the IOC to fix this problem, which they can't even prove on-site government. Next, on how there is more following, I need to tell you that things like tennis, things like football, things like badminton have significant following in the Olympics. You cannot tell me that the youth do not watch the Olympics if there are no esports or things like that. Because I tell you, the difference here is that physical sports are actually physically positive to these athletes. When children are stuck in their room every single day playing esports just because they tell their mom, oh my goodness, my favorite gamer is able to make millions and millions and millions, it is negative, and it is the negative you cannot deny on site government, because we tell you the glorification of esports is likely to happen when these players are competing in Olympics for millions and millions in prize pool, because we tell you the stamp of approval coming from the Olympics is simply way too big, the audience base caring about Olympics is simply way too big, and you are giving this opportunity for these young children to be telling their parents, I want to be a gamer too, I do not want to study because I can make it to the Olympics one day.
Okay, why, please?
Now next, on how the change of games is likely to happen, we tell you longevity in games are likely to happen. Why is this true? Because we tell you longevity does not happen when every 1 or 2 years there are new technological advancements, there are new games being developed every 1 or 2 years. Games change. There are no games that last for like 20, 30, hundreds of years, like how football or tennis has lasted for centuries. These games are likely to change, and the only thing government say about this is that they are esports players, they can adapt. Let me ask you a very simple question. If you are a badminton player, are you suddenly able to adapt to squash? I play squash and I'm not able to play badminton. You cannot simply say that just because they are esports athletes, they can play every single game. Because I tell you, longevity does not happen, and the unique problem here is that when these athletes devote their entire lives to playing these esports, or like they don't even go to university because they are focusing on the Olympics, and then you destroy their career right after one cycle of the Olympics, because this longevity is unlikely to happen to esports, which evolve every single year. If you can't prove longevity, you essentially fail the esports athletes, which you can't defend. Yes.
Okay, Okay, so you mentioned that how they cannot play these games. But we told you already that it's a different category. We are not saying that Olympic players should also play this esports. We're saying it's a different category.
Yeah, it's a different category, but it does not fit the identity of the Olympics. Like I told you, the simple F1 example. F1 was for motorsport. F1 was for car racing. You do not put a bicycle competition in just because you feel like it, just because you want inclusivity for bicycle athletes, just because bicycle is also racing is ridiculous. Now, our argument on over-glorification. Why is it likely to happen? Because there is a stamp, because the Olympic brings a stamp of approval, and then esports athletes are suddenly recognized as legitimate athletes. They are given Olympic medals for competing. You do not suddenly have an extra category in the FIFA World Cup for electronic football just because you feel like it, and then give them a World Cup trophy for winning electronic football. It's ridiculous. It's a totally separate thing. We are not putting out exclusive. We are not excluding these people. We are giving them an opportunity in another sphere which does not influence the current Olympic sport. I think I'm still within time. Now, the impact here. Number one, on how children use this as an excuse to avoid other commitments, like schools and exams, because they can tell their parents, oh, there's this esports player making millions. Then you know that you need to know one thing. Not every single person, can I confirm they have 7 minutes? Because they keep clapping.
You have 4 at the time.
I have 7 minutes.
He's a deputy, he has 7 minutes, not 4 minutes.
Oh, yes, 7 minutes. Okay.
Can I please get an extra 30
Yes,
seconds?
yes, please.
Okay. Because you need to know one thing, not every single person makes it in esports. And we tell you the audience base for esports is young children. When these young children are given this line of excuses to their parents, it is not positive. Because we tell you inclusivity and diversity and acceptance of the sport is only positive when what they are promoting is positive. So you can't deny the health negatives that come on your side. Because not every single person makes it, and when they are using Olympics as an excuse for them to escape studies and things like that, it is an inherent negative which you are unable to defend. Now, realize that glorification is only positive if what it promotes is inherently positive. Because Olympic Games promote physical sports and inclusivity. Esports are inherently negative if they are not done properly, and we tell you it's not done properly because the audience base you are influencing is children outside government. When they see all these people playing in the Olympics, they want to be in the Olympics too, just like any ordinary sports player. But when you are promoting a negative sport, a sport which is uncontrollable to these youth, you cannot take this debate. Because we tell you that addiction is likely to happen, and we tell you that there is no physical activity for these kids. They are cooped up in their room 24/7. Number two, we tell you how rationality is extremely low when these athletes opt into these sports. Because we tell you that people think these careers are so amazing, and when they see that people can make it as Olympic athletes, their rationality goes out the window because they see, oh, there's an opportunity for someone. But once again, realize not every single person can make it. The esports market is still extremely small. It is small for every single sport. But what you are influencing outside government is the young people. For other sports, rationality is still there because it existed for so many years. I tell you, this is extremely simple. It looks like something of Lee Chong Wei, Nicole David, competing in the bigger stages, winning world championship medals. They are huge national icons and people want to be like them. But the difference here is that what they promote is positive and what they promote is inherently negative, because addiction is likely to happen, because esports is negative to the person who cannot control it. You are giving them false hope, so proud to oppose.
Thank you for the thank you to the representative position. Give us 30 seconds to read the result. Yes, so another 20 seconds. Okay, I'll now call upon the government leader.
I almost have something. I'll try.
Okay, am I audible? Alright, so panels, you cannot deny that technology is the future. And on today's motion, our side firmly believes that the idea of integration of esports in Olympic Games and how it will bring many benefits, right? Sports should not be limited to physical prowess or brute strength, but instead the idea of one's dedication to fight for something, to work towards the idea of success, and should not be limited to how it's done, right? Okay, before that, good morning to everyone, alright? So my speech will consist of 4 parts: rebuttals, case comparisons, clashes, and lastly, a short summarization. Okay, rebuttals, right? So, side opposition has mentioned on how it failed and how you prove it would work, right? Well, we have to tell you that simply because the occurrence that you mentioned happened 6 years ago, okay? So esports are so much bigger and so much better now, and it has a huge fan base and community, right? In which now begs the question, imagine a student who fails to pass an exam a semester ago, right? Should he or simply stop trying simply because of past failure? No, right? It's 2024, ladies and gentlemen. Just because something can't be accepted in the past, that shouldn't mean it can't be accepted in the future. Now, you also mentioned on how Olympic Games should continue to focus on physical sports, but we tell you that this shouldn't be the case, right? We tell you that it's 2024 and we tell you this should not be the case anymore. We should tell you that change is okay to be happen, right? You also mentioned on how it would cause people to waste their life away, stuck in their room, and we just simply do not see how this would stand, right? You have to realize that this case also happens on your side, which you also failed to tackle. The harms here are symmetrical, so you can't just come up here and say that this will happen to our people, this will happen to your people, when it also happens on your side, all right? You also need to, you also mentioned on how esports athletes need to train for new games every 1 or 2 years or so, forcing them to change, right? We tell you this isn't the case, right? Just because the next Olympic Games, for example, right, is basketball, right? That doesn't incline for other categories of athletes to change in order to compete in the Olympic Games. That's simply not how it makes sense, right? There's going to be different categories for different tournaments for different games, right? Simply because this game dies out, that shouldn't incline other people to join this game, okay? So side opposition is also too narrow-minded on how they only focus about minors, right? And how they wouldn't go to school because they see these people as their idols. We simply tell you again, these harms are symmetrical. Children in your side of the world are also choosing to not go to school. They're also stuck in their room playing video games from the already existing esport tournaments and their idols. So we tell you, this simply isn't something you can bring up to today's debate. They also haven't brought up any arguments on their second speaker, which already proves they simply don't believe in their own case in the first place. Case comparison. So our side of the house, we have proven to you with a couple of statements, right? Which are that esports in Olympic Games will help provide more recognition and prestige to esport athletes, would advocate for more diversity and inclusivity, and lastly, to promote equality in the esports world. Now, why is this so important, right, for our side? We believe the integration of esports in Olympic Games would advocate for diversity and inclusivity. Side opposition needs to realize that in the Olympic Games we are discussing here, to integrate esports into Olympic Games may not be easy, right? But the benefits of it will be striking a gold mine. We also do not deny that esports are doing incredibly great as following the status quo, but we think putting it onto the stage internationally would advocate for a more diverse fan base. Side opposition needs to face the fact that esports, whether you like it or not, is starting to become the norm, okay? It's starting to become the normalization, starting to be integrated into society too deep. And as our technology advances, this will become more evident, okay? So our side also provided the idea that Olympic Games will help the esporters achieve the purpose for why they work so hard, and that is recognition and prestige, right? Compared to our traditional esport tournaments, if you win, you might never be recognized by any civilians in the public ever, but even if you compete in the Olympic Games, your entire country, maybe even the entire world will know your name, no matter whether you win or lose. Now to cite opposition's case, they say that in our side, we will have problems like exploitation and cheating, and such as the esports and Olympic Games would defy the very definition of Olympic Games. But let me write some premise on why each of these points fail. First off, the problems with exploitation and cheating is a problem that is symmetrical for both sides, and on top of that, it can also be regulated with improving regulations and precautions, just like how side oppositions will do it. And how it would defy the very meaning of Olympic sports, we say this is untrue. Side opposition should not have a narrow mind as to the fact that Olympic Games should be limited to physical prowess. Instead, we should be open to changes and adaptability. To summarize, it's 2024, ladies and gentlemen. So either you change for the future or you be left in the past. So, however, what we do need to hear on side government is definite proof of why our side is not feasible in the long run, as all we've heard, right, are problems in the shortcomings of our current system, which, keep in mind, can be fixed or prevented in the first place as time goes on. So if side opposition cannot provide any standing arguments on today's debate as to why our side fails, side government should take today's debate logically, no question. Clashes. So we managed to locate a couple, right? The first one is which side is better, right? Now we have stated many substantial arguments and illustrations to what our side's world will look like, and the integration of esports into Olympic Games and why it is needed, right? To summarize, the integration of esports into Olympic Games is a way to introduce esports to the world on an international level, right? But side opposition, they have failed to not only see the bigger picture, but their case falls when all they can do is mention our side's shortcoming problems, which can be mitigated in the long run. They've also yet to touch on how our side does not have actually the purity for esports to sustain in the Olympic Games, which is what we need to hear from side government, side opposition, or their case simply falls. Onto the second clash, right? Whether which side of our esports in Olympic Games would be better than the current status quo. And that is to say we believe this is true, right? Now we have mentioned the countless benefits of esports in Olympic Games, which I will quickly go over, being the prestige and recognition far beyond what normal esport tournaments would give, diversity, and lastly, inclusivity. Side opposition has only mentioned its lack of purity due to the standing ovation of traditional beliefs on how Olympic Games should be as is. But we say the Olympic Games has been a sport about physical prowess for nearly thousands of years now, right? It's 2024, a new era for humankind, so it's time for change. We have also mentioned that esports community isn't just some group of people playing games, but entire millions of people, right? So why not give them something to look forward to every 5 years, just as the fans of other physical sports, you know? Why must we disregard esports as an actual sport instead of treating it, and instead treat it like child's play, right? And to that, we also win this clash, right? Summarization. At the end of today's debate, right, it is clear as black and white on which side should take today's case. Our side has provided two substantial arguments that esports would bring more benefits to the competitors and how esports would bring diversity and inclusivity. We have also proven our burdens, which is the world in which we live in can spread more recognition and prestige for these esport players, and how esports in our world will have more diversity and inclusivity. At the end of the day, right, the Olympic Games is a platform in which people can compete for the highest honor of recognition and prestige. And it should not be limited to just sports that need talent, strength, or agility, right? But instead, it should be allowed for new ideas and implementations. So if you want a side with a world that's not only adapting to the future in terms of technological advancements, but every day in our everyday lives, but also in our sports and games, side with ours. But if you want to live in a world unopened for change that is still stuck in the past, then side with opposition. Because at the end of the day, our side is not only preparing for a future, but to create a society that is open to changes and acceptance and new beliefs.
Thank you to the government word. I will now call upon the opposition
I'll
to
try my
begin the
best.
speech.
Try to take a P line. Try to take one. P line. So do I take one? Try to.
I think we should begin in 3, 2, 1.
Panel, everything side government has said so far has failed to even attack our points or even counter some of our points. They only said things such as cheating is prevalent on both sides, and things such as we should have a sport category for just esports. This again, in my speech, I like to say two rebuttals, which is the idea that our side, on both sides, that people are still hiding and playing games in their room, and the idea that the esports should be in the Olympics in general. I would like to move on to my rebuttals, which is side government continuously brings up that side government brings up the case that people, even on our side of the world, that people are still hiding in rooms and playing games. And still playing games all day. We do this, we like to say that on their side it's more prevalent. This is because on their side the Olympics is such a big event, it's such a huge event where millions of people watch it. When the esports goes into the Olympics, it gives the legitimization and validation for students or people to just say,
oh, I want to play games all day, and when they don't do study or study at all and they fail at school, because of this leads to the problem of which their students are just continuously procrastinating about their studies. They continue procrastinating on their studies. They're just saying that on their side that it is just on both sides that people play games. On our side, we say it's less likely to happen simply because in our side, parents are able to control these students, their children, or just their adults inside their house. They're able to tell them that they should come downstairs and study because it's not such a prevalent event where students can just use the justification or validation of the Olympics that they can compete in the Olympics to just play games all day and not study. With this, we say that these students or people will just waste away their lives, even though they say that it brings bigger opportunities.
Rewind, please.
Decline. Next, we're going to say that they bring up that esports should be Olympics, but we say that the Olympics, esports should be in a separate competition. Like we should just have a different Olympics for esports. Since Olympics is meant to show human achievement and human physical vigor, we say that the Olympics should be in a different category, a different competition, still under Olympics. That they should just be not in the Olympics because they can just be in a very separate category or competition because esports does not fit the Olympic identity. Because in the Olympics, you're supposed to talk about how millions of people watch the Olympics simply because of the physical vigor, the physical fitness, and the physical agility of all these athletes in the Olympics. But on esports, they're only saying things such as their reaction rate, their way, how they can aim, and their ability to just
Rewind, please.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, you may say that, but on your side, you haven't proven your main burden. You just talked about influence on people. But sports has evolved over time to include various forms of competition. Why can't esports too?
Could you repeat your PI?
Okay, your side have not proven your main burden. You just talked about influence. However, sports has evolved over time for so many years. We have people throwing fireballs at each other, but now people are adapting to change. So why can't esports too?
We say that esports cannot adapt to change because there are millions of games on the world web, and just say a game were to go into the esports and Olympics, we say that it won't last very long. As we have seen many games such as Fall Guys or Among Us only last for 1 year or 2 years. And we say that these athletes will not be able to adapt fast enough or be able because they're spending their lives supporting this young game. They're playing this one game for their rest of their life. They're sacrificing everything to play this one game. And the moment that these athletes find out that their game is not inside the next Olympics, they are doomed. Because they have thrown away their lives already, they're only playing this one game. The only thing that government has said to counter this is the fact that they have said that these people can adapt by just playing the game 24/7, which we said, opposition said is very unhealthy and is very not good for the future of our country. Next, I'd like to move on to my world comparison. Okay. On our side of the house, even in our worst case, children still won't be playing as much games as they have the incentives or tools to just not play games because they have studies, they have things to do that are not validated by things such as esports in the Olympics. So even in our worst case scenario, it still benefits us more than Gulf's worst case scenario because on their comparative, on their side of the world, the children are just playing games all day. Well, like to elaborate on this. We also help the games because now they can focus on big championships and because they're so dedicated to this game. Because when we have specific competitions for just these specific sports, such as we have an esports for, let's say we have an esports Olympic, these athletes do not need to don't need to compete inside the Olympics. They can just compete inside their own specific competition. They get their own attention. They get their own specific competition. They get their own specific audience, which means that it won't take away the influence or it won't take away the view or the attention that is given to the Olympics, which millions of people watch. We say that on the other side of the house, that the Olympics is hampered by the fact that that attention is split to a new category, which is esports. We say that this is bad for the house, bad for the Olympics because it takes away attention from the true purpose of the Olympics, which is to promote the human achievement and physical vigor of people. Next, I like to move on to that. In girls' best case, they may say that there may be more opportunities. They may say that wait, I was gonna move on. I'd like to move on to my weighing and vessels. Okay, before I move on, any other few eyes? Wait. I continue my workplace. On the website of the house, they say that they are able to give these people more recognition, that these people get more recognition because they are competing in the Olympics. They are known worldwide if they compete in the Olympics. We say that this is completely achievable outside of the world. So we say that outside of the world, there are still competitions, world championships instead of it. Therefore, we don't need it into the Olympics. With this, I like to end the speech.
Thank you to the opposition. I will now call upon the opposition and vice speaker to begin.
I will start in 3, 2, 1. Panel, I'll be doing 4 things in my recognize speech today. Firstly, on technical calls. Then after that, 3 topics of discussion that were carried out in today's debate. Firstly, on the idea of diversity and inclusivity. Second, on longevity. And then after that, on this failed burden that government tries to push onto us. Now, number 1, you need to note this lack of engagement coming from side government. All they push is their positive case and they fail to engage with our side at even a very shallow level. They do not tackle over glorification, and the only thing they say about failed longevity on our side is that these athletes are somehow able to transition from one game to another game, which I tell you is totally impossible. If you are playing e-soccer one day, you cannot expect the next day these people pivot to e-basketball. It is ridiculous, and I do not see how it works on side government. And insofar as they cannot prove this, we tell you that they fail the athletes, which I'll be talking about in my reply speech today. Now, number 1, on this topic of discussion coming from side government on diversity and inclusivity. Well, the only parallel they draw between esports and physical sports is 2 things. Number 1 is that these sports are competitive, and number 2, these people train really, really hard. You cannot tell me that two parallels means that these things are totally together. Not everything which has 2 parallels is the same. The identity of the Olympics is for physical competition. There is no parallel drawn in this part, and we tell you the audience watching the Olympics is there for physical competition. When the characteristics of 2 are so different, they deserve individual competitions. Note how we allow them the opportunity, just not in the Olympics. Because we have no problem with a separate competition of the e-Olympics or electronic world competitions. We just do not want them to be part of the physical Olympics because the identity simply does not fit. They deserve proper recognition in a tournament of their own. We do not block out this opportunity for these athletes. Note how what government needed to defend was why the Olympics is so beneficial to esports and why world championships or electronic Olympics simply do not cut it. They have said nothing about it, thus we win this clash convincingly. So diversity does not matter when these materialize on our side. Number 2, on longevity. We tell you that video games do not have a very long lifespan because every 1 or 2 years there are technological developments. After all, people want to make money. They want new games so that people spend more money. And there is an end in progression path. Number 3, there are simply new interests. People are finding the next new interesting thing every day. We tell you that the Olympics will not simply keep a game with no viewership because the Olympics has incentives to promote popular games for people to flock to the Olympics because they want viewership. If these games are simply not popular, they will drop these games. Note how this is a very fair assumption coming from side opposition because government do not mechanize this debate at all. They do not tell us how they want to include esports in the Olympics. So we are pushed to believe that the Olympics will only take popular games and when they are not popular, the Olympics will drop them. There was no mechanization coming from side government, so we take this part. Now, and we tell you a longevity, right? After all the sacrifices that these athletes make, because you realize they are national athletes, they have to devote all their lives into it, they have to train so hard just to win this competition. Then suddenly you drop it. You are failing these athletes at its core because you do not allow them longevity to their career, because you force them to end their career right after one Olympics. Because I tell you, it is simply illogical for people to pivot from one sport to another. Just because I play badminton and I hold a racket, it doesn't mean the next day I can play tennis at a competitive level. I do not see the parallel. Now, lastly, on how government tries to push this burden onto us, on how we must follow the direction of society going towards esports. Well, we tell you that we do not follow this because we are rational actors. We have given you structural reasons why it's likely not going to bring as many positives as you push on your side. Because it is simply the identity of the Olympics and it's too big of a stamp of approval to give esports this stamp of approval from the Olympics because we tell you over-glorification is likely to happen. You only follow society if it's positive to you, and note how we never say that esports should never be accepted by society. We accept esports, just not in the current identity the Olympics has. We preserve the Olympics, so proud to oppose.
Thank you to the opposition member. I will now call upon the government representative to begin his speech.
Sometimes, the best indicator of when a team has lost a debate is when they've gone off track of this motion. So let's conclude this. So let's take a look at both words today. From the get-go, we can say that side opposition was built on a misconception of why we actually fight for this. You see, they said that this is about whether esports can match the physicality of traditions and all that. However, we already pointed out on our side, on my speech, second speaker, and reaffirmed by my third speaker, whether the legitimacy and value of esport as a sport is very important, and not about comparing its physicality to traditional sports. We don't say that. But their side has yet to prove their burden, which is how esports actually cannot coexist. But no response from this, because on their side, they've only stated the influence, what actually happens when this happens. However, they also stated that our side will have over-glorification. However, I don't see why this cannot happen on your side. Has Olympic Games already have over-glorification itself? So I don't see why exactly this is a problem here. And you even contradicted yourself when you said people will have societal demands. This is why exactly our side will succeed here. Because people, according to societal demands, we're not living in a stone age anymore. We're living in the advancement age where technology is increasing. I don't see why esports cannot also be accepted as the Olympic sports. So, two questions here. First, on which gives the better outcome to these both worlds, both Olympic sports and esports also. So I have told you already that both esports and traditional Olympic games can in fact coexist because changes follow societal demands. Second, when taken to an international level, the diversity aligning to the value of esports is very undeniable. So why is this important in this debate? Because not only does it prove that it's about what the community wants, but it's also to prove that popularity will grow on our side of the house. This has proven our burden, which is how esports and Olympic Games can coexist. Our second speaker has also told you that your Olympic Games can promote meritocracy. Because why is this? We ask you, is the idea of having another separate category in such an over-glorified world every 5 years very harmful? Because we have proven to you that at least on our side, number one, it is a separate category in the Olympics. Side opposition must not argue over that how people wouldn't like it or want to watch it and children will get influenced by it. We don't say that positive. We don't say that stands here. Okay, why is this? Our side is more feasible in the long run, and we already proved that on our side. Whereas they have been only focusing on the short outcomes. They haven't not proved that. So my second clash is on the issue of whether esports in the Olympic Games would strive. Okay, we have told you few claims. We told you that esports already has a massive global audience itself, and it's growing day by day, okay, as the moment we're speaking. Secondly, we also told you that infrastructure for esports already is so huge. Why can it not be in the Olympic Games? We don't see how over-glorification happens in this, because Olympic Games already has its over-glorification. So when is esports turn to shine into international level panels? Okay, why is this important in improving our burden? Because this itself already shows that esports is well established to succeed on its own, what not at an international level. See, the importance here is that whether it's a physical sport or not, it's when a community grows. It's when a community strives and support their own fan bases, which is why we think on their side it falls. Okay, opposition also has a very minded mindset about what is sports. They said that Olympic Games is just physical prowess. We already told you that this is too narrow. We already told you that it's not possible, because when you're talking about sports, it's about the honor, spirit, and how you fight to win. It's not about whether it's physical, it's not about whether it's football, it's not whether it's about esports or whether it's FIFA. As long as you are striving to win, that is why exactly our side wins here. Our case is not just about the ability of esports to succeed. It's also about getting a community as one. That's what we're fighting for. So let's take their side at best, okay? They claim that in their world, esports already thrives itself, so let's leave it be. Let's not do it anymore. However, even if this is true, we see that this is exactly why we wanted to take to an international level. Not just are we adding another competition into it, we're also harnessing its success to amplify the global appeal. This move isn't about disrupting what's already happening right now. It's about seizing a moment of growth. So we tell you, side opposition has been arguing with an empty hole. Because in every era, the greatest revolutions come from existing on the tomorrow.